Okay, so today I wanted to give an example of the power of allowing versus trying to make it happen. So this morning I had a long list of things that I was going to do for the day, for my business. And when I sat down to start working on that list, everything on the list that at one point when I was making the list this past weekend felt great and exciting, this morning it had a heaviness to it. That would just be the best way that I could describe it. Everything on it felt very forced. Nothing on the list stood out to me as something that felt good to move forward on. However, I have lived a lot of my life using the make it happen approach, the nose to the grindstone, the no pain, the no gain, the rise and grind mentality. Not that there's anything wrong with that if that's your deal. Personally, I prefer the opposite of that. I prefer to draw to me the things that I want, to attract to me the things that I want. It just feels better. There's something about it feels more efficient. It feels like it takes less energy, and therefore, as I become better at it, I could actually do more and accomplish more. Not that it's about accomplishing, but it's just, there's something about it that's actually also more satisfying. I could go on and on. It's just one of those things where if you're I feel like anybody watching this is already kind of interested in the idea of allowing, so I probably don't have to convince you of the power of allowing. It's just one of those things that you have to experiment with to see for yourself the difference between how both feel. So I know how both feel. I know what it's like to try to make it happen, and I know what it's like to allow, and I definitely prefer allowing. For sure, 100%. So as I, over the past couple years, have been experimenting with allowing and honing my skill of allowing, there's been some great examples, and today what happened I feel like is a great example, and since it's fresh in my mind, I just thought I'd share it because it feels like that's the theme for the day. Mainly because I woke up this morning, my sister had shared a video with me on Instagram, so it was just like a 60-second clip of somebody talking about the power of attracting to you what you want instead of trying to kind of like assert yourself, which is, this is me, this is how I assert myself. So after watching that this morning, so that was kind of like the first little sign of, kind of putting it in my mind that, right, allowing. I prefer to allow than to, I've got some years of conditioning related to making effort, to efforting, as Abraham Hicks would say. Big fan of Abraham Hicks. So I get that video from her this morning, and that kind of puts it in my head. And then I'm sitting at my desk, aka the kitchen table, looking at this list and feeling the heaviness of it. And so I decide to push forward anyway on the first item because I am currently newly self-employed, and I am looking to generate some income for myself. And so this list is a list of items that I had brainstormed, ideas, things that I could do to kind of start some momentum in the direction of bringing in income. And like I said, all of it felt really heavy, but I decided to move forward on one of the items. And as I started working on it, the task was to estimate a small project, to estimate a small job for somebody. And I was spending too much time on it and not really, it's like spinning my wheels, basically. I wasn't breaking through. I had to brainstorm to come up with a solution of what I was going to estimate in the first place, and it wasn't working. And so I stopped, and as I normally do a lot of the time, I will divert my attention to something else, aka my phone. I popped open YouTube, I went to the homepage and saw a video from a woman talking about the very topic of allowing. And I watched that and then felt inspired to, actually, I watched that felt better, and I realized, okay, I'm trying to force, like, it reminded me, and then I had thought of the video that I had watched this morning, the 60-second Instagram clip, and I looked up and I glanced out the window, and I saw the tent that I have set up in the backyard. And I went out and, well, the tent ended up having some water in it, so I had to dump out the water. But I pulled the sleeping pad that was in it out of the tent and just laid that in the yard, like under a tree, and laid on it. And I just felt all of a sudden so relaxed and at peace and very satisfied. And 2 minutes later, my cat came outside and like laid on my chest and was like super snuggly, which she normally really isn't. So I was like, I was in heaven. And so I just laid there feeling very relaxed. And looking back, now I realize the items on that list, the whole reason I even wrote them down in the first place was to bring in money. And the reason I wanted to even bring in money was so that I could pay the bills. And the reason I want to pay the bills is so that I can relax. So it wasn't necessarily the list, it wasn't necessarily the money, it wasn't necessarily the bills, it was the feeling of relaxation, and also maybe like some satisfaction as well, as I find paying bills very satisfying. So laying outside in the yard under a tree, the sun shining through the tree on me, feeling that warmth, feeling the warm breeze, my cat laying on my chest, I was just soaking that up and enjoying that, and not thinking about anything but being in that moment and enjoying it. And so I actually started to drift off a little bit and kind of, I don't know if I really fell asleep, but I was just kind of in that state of like just dozing really, but it felt so good. It felt so good. And maybe I was out there for 30 minutes, 45 minutes. I woke up, not woke up, but like I was already kind of awake, conscious, but I was just like kind of in and out, like I said, dozing. I got a text from my mom, and that kind of like brought me back into a little more consciousness. And I looked at the text from her, and then I checked my email, and I had 2 emails from people. Actually, I had a few emails that were really fun emails. 2 of them related specifically to items on my list that were about following up with people. And yeah, so 2 of the emails, like those people contacted me instead of me reaching out to them. And one was somewhat expected. The other one was completely unexpected. They were like person I had thought of, and I was like, oh, I could contact them and see if they're interested in this particular idea that I have. And I was not expecting to hear from them. So that one was kind of even more satisfying to receive because it was somewhat unexpected. So I didn't have to take action at all. Now, obviously I have to respond to them, but I feel excited to respond to them. And all of that happened while I was taking a nap. So there you go. That is, I feel, the power of allowing. And this isn't just one isolated example. I've had this happen many, many times. That's why I feel so passionate about spreading awareness about allowing versus trying to make it happen. Because once you start experimenting with it, you do start to see things like this happening all the time in your life. There's been many times where I've had an idea to have a conversation with, like an uncomfortable conversation with somebody that I really didn't want to have the conversation. And then the next day they come to me saying, basically proposing what I wanted to propose to them that I felt uncomfortable about, or brought up the topic that I was uncomfortable to bring up. So I didn't have to do anything, basically. But it's not necessarily about not doing anything. It's just the mode of operation that you're in the majority of the time. You're in this mode of allowing things to come to you. You're taking action, but the action that you do take feels effortless. It feels inspired. It feels light. It feels fun. It feels satisfying. It doesn't drain you. And so then I feel you then therefore have more energy to do more. And don't we all want to do more. I mean, I feel like if you look back to when you're a little kid, you don't want to go to bed at night. You want to do more. And I feel like that more and more lately myself. I feel like I have more energy when I approach life in the mode of allowing things to come to me, attracting things to me through just following the next step that feels right, that feels good, that feels interesting. And that's a whole nother topic for another video. But there you go. That's a fresh example from today of the power of allowing. I hope you enjoyed, and thank you for watching. I feel like I actually want to end my video with something that I love saying to myself, and that is, now what? This is actually something Abraham Hicks says. They say when they're going to pick a new person to come up into the hot seat, they say, now what? And I love that question. I love asking, or even just, what's next? Like, what's next? But I like, now what? Just feels better. And I love how they say it. They say it with such lightheartedness and a sense of adventure. Like, now what? So I feel like I kind of want to end my videos with that. There is a part of me that feels like I don't want to I want to acknowledge that is something Abraham Hicks says. It's like, that's not something I came up with. But I really want to end my videos with that because I just love that so much myself. So let me give it a try. Now what?